back to another edition of Mindful Moments with the Sharper Moise Foundation, State of the Black Male. I am joined with Mr. Hakim Wright Sr, professional photographer, as well as, again, my co-host and board member, Dr. Tequilla Hill Allen. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. So, Mr. Wright, we are going to jump right in. So what brought you to your chosen profession?
It was, as they say, I was a late bloomer to the field of photography. I've always had a camera growing up, but it really honestly wasn't, grown, or the seed was, started to sprout until my kids start playing sports. Once my oldest son was playing sports, it just started with me just taking pictures of him. And then it grew from, oh, can you get some pictures of my kids? And I was like, well, I'm already at the game. My son is on your team, so I might as well. So it wound up being just, and it just grew from there. And then it let me like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this, let me really dedicate, the due diligence. Like, okay, let me see what other photographers, as far as on the higher end shooting, like as far as for ESPN, Getty, Associated Press, so let me start looking at what type of equipment they were using. So that, chase the rabbit down a hole type thing. And it just led to where I'm at now. So it's been a fantastic journey.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious, I think Linda is too, what has been the mindset or drive that you adopted to manage both the challenges and the victories navigating the media industry?
Definitely for myself, it definitely has been difficult for the simple fact that I'm more so right now currently heavily shoot more sports for the Associated Press. And before I started doing work with them, I was shooting for an online publication magazine here in Atlanta, which put me in the realm of me being in the same room with these other photographers, with these major networks and stuff like that. And it was a bit intimidating because I didn't see anybody like myself there. Most of the time it was just me and, unfortunately my white male counterparts. It was maybe some games or some locations I was out where it had been myself and maybe one other. So for me, that was big on me keeping my, game face on, and basically letting them know that, we can shoot as well. We deserve to be in the same space, to compete as well. So what's funny is now that I shoot for the Associated Press, I see the same photographers and their communication to me is different. Whereas before I was just on the outside looking in. Now, because I do a lot of work now for the Associated Press, it has turned into, hey, how you doing? Here's my phone number. You need help or you want any questions? It's now, I guess I graduated into that realm, and the network and communication is definitely different from when we would still be at the same events, shooting the same sports, but the communication was just different. Where I was just real cordial, just, hey, how you guys doing? Always talk with them and stuff like that. But now it's just like, he's one of us now.
But your resume, and correct me if I'm wrong, before you got with the Associated Press was not shabby. You know what I mean?
So, yeah. Yeah.
So give us a rundown of that. So I want to give everybody some context into where you were prior to getting to the Associated Press. So, they don't think that you were still just shooting your
sports team. Like he was like scrub, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
Exactly.
All right. So it's been about probably 8 years ago. like I say, long story short, my wife is from the Caribbean background. She's from St. Croix. So me being immersed in her culture and stuff like that, being familiar with carnival time and fest and stuff like that. So I've always covered the Atlanta Carnival. I've been to Toronto. I've been, different places covering the carnival experience through photography. It just so happened this one year, they were doing a press conference here. The magazine that I was shooting for, well, still do work for when I can, is called the Peach Review. He had a writer that was there. And out of all the photographers, what was funny to me, I was walking out and he stopped me. He said, "Hey, I'm a writer for this magazine. And I just want to know if I can use a couple of your images to use with my write-up. And we'll make sure you get credit and stuff like that." So I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. So a week goes by, I get a phone call and I'm on the phone. So I don't, like we all do, don't recognize the number, voicemail, and then, or they'll call right back. So then right after I rejected the call, I get an email. And then I looked at the signature, and then it was like the number was on there. So it was like, that number just called me. So I said, let me call this number back. And it wound up being the editor for the magazine. So me and John talked and stuff like that. He was like, "Man, your photos are phenomenal." He said, "I would love to use them." I'm like, "Okay, cool, no problem." He said, "I will make sure you get credit." I was like, "All right, cool." And then 2 weeks later, the write-out came out and they sent me the link. And actually, that was my first time seeing my stuff published, with a nice write-up and stuff like that. So at that moment, I was just like, wow. I was like, really like, whoa, that was like my first time, because other than that, everything was just on my own, trying to scrounge, just trying to see what's going on. And then honestly, from there, me and John developed the best relationship. So then, of course, as the years went on, and because they covered a lot of prominent events here in Atlanta, also covered all the sports, which is the NBA, the Hawks, the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Dream, the WNBA team, and then the MLS, Atlanta United soccer team. So as the years went on, he would ask me would I be interested in covering. I was like, of course, I wanted, and sports was my love. So, and I'm a diehard Atlanta Falcon fan. So for me,
I'm so sorry for you.
I know, it's okay. Hey,
it's
been a rough couple of years.
Yeah, it's been longer than that. But hey, I've been there for the long haul since Jerry Glanville days. So that should let you know it's been quite okay. So, but anyway, so he would ask me. So it wound up. That's where the professional sports came in, because I wasn't in that realm at all, nor the collegiate level. I was just shooting high school sports because my son was in high school. So I was able to go ahead and just shoot, all the high school games and stuff like that, whatever sport he played. So that also, while I was doing high school stuff, I reached out to a local paper that covers, and he was like, "Yeah, we would love to have you." I said, he's like, "Well, we don't pay much." I was like, in my mind, I was like, that's fine, because I'm already here shooting my son. So to get paid anything would be great. So I'm like, okay. So I jumped at the opportunity, and it was a great working relationship. It was the Clayton Daily News here in Clayton County, where I live at. So we wound up having a great relationship. And as I started going into the professional and collegiate realm, because now I have a media outlet backing me, because you can't, both professional, collegiate and professional, they do not allow just a freelancer to come to those events. You have to be backed by a news outlet or a major media outlet to cover those things. So that was my way in to cover those. So John would be like, okay, hey, you want to shoot Georgia Tech? So I wound up shooting all started off with Georgia Tech basketball, then migrated into college football, and then the NBA, the NFL. So I gradually he started applying for credentials, and to eventually I started getting season credentials, whereas I didn't have to do game by game application for a credential. We worked our way, because we were so consistent, we worked our way up to where I was able to get a whole season credentials as a credential photographer. And those credentials are not easy to obtain. So because of my steady work ethic, that allowed me to stay in that realm. And it got to a point where one of my dreams, one of my goals was to either shoot for a professional team, whether it been NBA, NFL, or shoot for a major news outlet, whether it be Associated Press, USA Today, Reuters, Getty Images. So that was my next tier, my next goal. I was like, okay. So I asked John, because since he's the editor, he has all the context of, he knows the end of like who to get to. So he sent me a list of like all the 8 directors and stuff like that. So my wife and I just sat down. She can help me compose a general email, that I could send to all of them. And I sent them all out and all of these networks, all the headquarters, everything is in New York. So send it to New York. And the very next morning, the only one I got a reply from was the Associated Press. Now, mind you, when this happened, this was 5-6 years ago. So they said, well, hey, we have a regional editor in your area. We forward your information to him, give him a call. So I was like, okay, cool. So I gave him a call. He sent me everything. He said, hey, we would love to, have you, this, that, there. You will be a stringer. Stringer is just a freelancer for them. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I sent them, you have to show them a list of your equipment and stuff like that. Make sure you have the adequate equipment before they can send you an assignment. Make sure you have the equipment to do the job. So boom, send them that information. Didn't hear a peep, not a word. Even though now I'm still shooting for the magazine and I'm still seeing the same people, Associated Press, Getty, I'm still seeing them, but I'm still keeping my professional relationship with them. Hey, how you guys doing? Whatever. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit. Okay, so obviously me being a photographer, once the pandemic hit, everything shut down. So what I did is I actually started working with my parents. My parents are like electricians, 25 years in the business. So my mom called me. She was like, hey, you want to come to work? I'm like, all right, cool. So during the 18 months I was working with my parents, I get a call. And it's Mike from the Associated Press, which is the regional director. So he called me and said, hey, you still making pictures? I was like, sure. He was like, well, hey, I want to use you. I want to put you to work. He said, would you be interested in coming downtown to the office and let's talk. Okay, great. And I was just like, wow, this is different from the first conversation we had years ago. But like I say, they knew of me and stuff like that. So I go to the meeting and he was like, well, an opportunity came available because one of the photographers, he relocated and I need a shooter here in Atlanta that knows the lay of the land pretty much. And he said, I'm familiar with your work and stuff like that. And, I want to bring you on. I want to use you and this, that, and third. So I was just like, okay. So, so I start getting assignments, start doing stuff for the Associated Press. And it just was like assignment after assignment. They sent me to South Carolina, cover games. They sent me out. So the work has definitely increased. I say since we talked, and I've probably now been shooting for them on a pretty much consistent basis for probably about 3 months now, I would say, which has been a good working relationship. Now, mind you, Mike is the regional Southeast director. So that's like Tennessee all the way down south. So quite busy guy, quite busy. So they have 2 staff photographers here in Atlanta with me. And, I work closely with them. They'll call me and say, hey, we got this, or what's your calendar? We can start putting stuff on your calendar. So they also hand me assignments as well. it's one thing, they're like your peer. So it's kind of like if the doc says, okay, you know, this was a great conversation we had, is that you would love to have that feedback. But then your boss, you want to hear some feedback. And so I never had an opportunity, like he called me like, okay, you're doing a great job, or, you know, you really suck. You know what I'm saying? Or just, I wanted some type of feedback from him. So I haven't gotten anything until I would say a month ago. He calls me. He said, hey, I just want to let you know you're killing it. You're doing a phenomenal job. He said, you're everything I thought you would be. You exceeded my expectations. So I was just like, thank you. I've been waiting to have a conversation or a phone call like this because I wanted to know. It's cool to say your other team, your other peers are telling you, oh, you know, good job, you know, this, that, and third. But you ultimately want to hear from the guy that's approving your invoices, you know what I'm saying, to make sure that how you're perceiving your job is that you're doing it correctly. Or you don't want to be like, have that phone call. It's like, well, you know, we can't use it because it went the other way. So to know the conversation went way the opposite, you know, and trusted me with. And so like this morning, he called me and sent me on an assignment to cover. They're doing a national story about, you know, because now that this new year changed, they have people with the evictions starting to happen from the rental assistance that's supposed to be provided to the people and stuff like that. So that's a story that they're working on. So I had to actually go meet with the gentleman, take pictures and stuff like that, that get sent to New York to get ready for a story. But the journey through photography has been beautiful. It's definitely something that I'm glad I'm passionate about, because definitely it could have been something I could have been like, I'm not going to fight, or I'm not going to stand, or just, you know, I'm going to just find something else to do, you know.
Nice. So, I mean, what keeps you passionately committed right now, given, you know, some of the challenges that you faced within the photography and the media industry?
For me, I think I feel photography for me is I'm always interested in capturing the moment, because photography, once I take that picture, that moment's gone. You're never going to see it again. So I'm always chasing that moment or that image. I always see myself like winning. I visualize myself winning some type of prestigious award for an image that I captured. So what that is, or what that looks like, I have no idea. So just the idea of that drives me to, like, this story I did today. I was racking my brain on, like, man, what would be the best angle? What would be the best way to portray this? What, you know, and just to make sure I'm visually capturing it, because as a creative, you always second guess yourself. I mean, it could be phenomenal work, but there's always something you could nitpick and be like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. But one thing that I've learned also is you have to go with your instinct. You have to trust your time and your craft, which you've dedicated. I'm in 12 years in now, so going on 13. So for me now, I realize I I definitely feel the shift in my photography or my field, whereas I can go into just about any scenario and make good images. That's that just comes with confidence and knowing your equipment, knowing what you're doing, familiar with lighting, familiar with different, you know, things happen. You have to be able to adjust on the fly. So it keeps you sharp, which I do like. It's always evolving and changing. So you can get bored if you don't exercise, or if you don't push yourself to, like, because there's always another way to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So long as, you know, for me, I'm always like looking like, okay, what else is there? Like, I could do this better, or I can do this differently next time. So when this happens, I know how to do it both ways. So that way so for me, the chase of continual perfection of my skill set is what drives what keeps me going.
I like something that you mentioned. You said how you're currently right now, you're visualizing yourself winning that prestigious award. And that brings me back to, I think when you said when you started, you were wanting to be getting that position with the Associated Press or Reuters or Getty Images and things like that. So it's interesting how your journey has progressed and how I would say that you've manifested the things that you wanted.
Yes.
And that whole visualization piece, I think it's important because it keeps you in that drive when you hit those brick walls and when you get those no's or when you're in the spaces and people are just like, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? And so when you finally get there, it's like, oh, wow, I manifested this.
Yeah, because it's funny. My wife and I, when I was like, when the Associated Press, when I first started doing work, they were like, really like, okay, we got this. It was just coming. Like the floodgates really had opened for me. And I was just like, it was just like, I came home, I was like tired. I was like, man. And my wife looked at me, she's like, this is what you said. This is what you asked for. It's like, and when she said that, it just clicked. And it was just like, right. We sat up nights talking about this moment, this time, like what it would look like, what it would be like. And actually doing it, it's just like, God, look at you. I'm like, literally, I can't truly, you have to believe in whatever it is that you're focused on. You don't know when it's going to happen, how it's going to come, who's going to be put in your life, who's going to say something to you. You never know where it's going to come from. And I can truly say God has really blessed me and truly put me in positions. I literally can tell you countless times where I prayed before I went to a football game, a Falcon football game on the sideline. It's like, Lord, where do I need to go on the field to make a shot? And I literally, some games, matter of fact, shooting anything, I would be sitting at one location looking at something like shooting or something, and I'll be like, okay, you need to move down here. I will move, and a play will happen directly coming right in front of me. That has happened to me on countless times. And that just let me know, like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in my lane. I'm flourishing what I'm supposed to do because I'm in tune to what's going on around me. And that's something you have to have. You have to be focused and in tune to what's going on when you're in your field, because things will happen and it's up to you to be in whatever field it is up to you to either capture, react to whatever it is you're there for. That is your opportunity to get said job done because you're in that realm. And I don't take for granted that I built relationships with professional athletes outside of, covering them during the games, where I've been like Dwight Howard's a client of mine, Kent Bazemore, a client of mine, Paul Millsap, client of mine. Those are just NBA clients that I've done stuff outside of their sports world. I've worked with them personally. So I've used also my time in that realm to develop a network with these athletes, owners, agents, and stuff like that, because now they like, oh, I need a photographer, I need to do something. They're more likely willing to contact me because, one, I have a relationship with their client or with them, and they see me enough, in a professional setting and stuff like that. So that also helps me because I'm not starstruck, and be like, oh my God, that's such and such, and unfortunately for some people, that becomes a barrier. They can't get past that celebrity status and they kind of get caught up. Whereas for me, I've crossed that bridge many years ago where I'm able to be in the room with heavy hitters and actually perform and do my job effectively. And that's why I'm able to continue to be in those circles, because I'm there to do a job. I'm not there. I wasn't invited to be part of the atmosphere as far as the mingling social hour time. I'm there to make sure I capture the event, so that way when they post it wherever they're going to do with the images, that whoever sees it visually is able to, like, I understand what happened. I could see what a marvelous time it was. I could see it was great, just through the visual. So that's my biggest thing when I'm hired, is to make sure that the people that are not there wish they were there, or they can actually feel as if they were there, because the visuals that I'm able to provide, like, man, it was a fantastic event. I could tell exactly, the storyline, exactly how everything went, just by looking at it. And if you're able to do that as a photographer, then you have done your job.
Wow, you answered my question. Like, I was going to ask you, how do you balance being creative with trying to hit the standard form of your profession? But you answered that question 1,000%. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I know that you mentioned that, like, when everything started to happen, and you were getting event after event after event after event. So how do you stay well physically and mentally when, you hit those lows, or even though, getting all those events are high, but, it can be a bit exhausting. So how do you stay well mentally and physically to combat those highs and lows that you go through?
I have a wonderful family that keep me grounded. My wife is very good at pulling me back, because I can come in from an event on a high and be ready to get in the images and start doing, work, or, she was like, okay, honey, it's time to unplug, so to speak. So, my family, and then, my kids are active, so they have stuff that they got going on. Son's in the band, my daughter's in the band, so I have creative kids that, musically inclined. So that's the other side. I'm able to unplug from that for a little while and refocus and keep the family dynamic pretty strong. That's really been a good balance for me. But also because my wife is also my business partner, whereas she does I say this, she has been a phenomenal help. The first 10 years of my business, I was just doing it. Actually, I rebranded April of this year. So first 10 years, it was HKSR photography. And I was doing everything by myself. Contracts, client negotiate. I was doing everything by myself. Now, meanwhile, all this time, my wife, who has a double degree, accounting, brainy, that's her realm, all that type stuff, or office management type stuff. But I would never tap in, because I felt this is mine. I need to make sure I'm doing it. And that's, unfortunately, that's a downfall for a lot of small businesses, where you feel like you have to do everything, because it's like, you don't know nothing about the field, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Or, you don't know. So you feel, so that was a struggle that we had to deal with, because I would be wrecking my brain and be dog tired and kind of detach myself from the family, because I was so involved in doing everything, driving the business. So the pandemic was, honestly, for us, minus losing some family members on her side and my side, minus that, the pandemic actually has been a blessing to us in our family. And I say that with regards into, one, it had me slow way down. So it helped me refocus. Okay, let me get the house, family in order, make sure that's solid. Me and her relationship solid. Then that's when the birth of you know what, this would be a great time to rebrand. So as we come out the pandemic, you launch a new company. And so that's where we have. And honestly, the Lord have blessed so well that I work at Delta Airlines. I have been full time for next week will be 15 years with Delta, but I've been blessed to go. I'm part time now because my business has taken off since the April of last year when I rebranded that. And what I did was I used my wife's strengths to bring her in. And I'm like, all right, you're going to handle contracts, invoicing, and stuff like that. And that freed me up to just focus on the business as far as shooting. And it has helped tremendously. So by her having my back and as a support unit is phenomenal. So that helps to bring the balance because I'm also giving her a lot of responsibilities that I was so holding on to myself, whereas that's her niche. That's what she does for a living. You know, she manages $20 million budgets for the city. So she knows all the contract, so that's an asset to me. So for me, for me to relinquish that to her and me not have to worry about any of that at all. I mean, she'll go ahead and write the contract, write out the invoice, and then she'll say, look it over. I could just look over it. It's good. Send it. And I'm I'm on to the next thing. So it's been a blessing. So I'm glad that the Lord slowed me down to realize use your assets, and you can't do it all by yourself. You're blessed with people in your life that has those strengths to help you enhance your business or whatever it is that you're doing. You have to trust that obviously, they know their field. So go ahead and let them do their job. That's what they do. And it has been a direct blessing for me, for sure.
Wow. Oh, I don't know about you, Linda, but I'm inspired. If you can speak to your younger self, sir,
Yes.
what advice would you give him?
I would say, just keep focused. Just keep focused and follow your ambitions, follow your dreams, follow what you have in your heart, whatever your instinct is, just follow that because it will lead you differently. And everybody is not allowed a front seat in your life. So you're gonna have people that's gonna come and go, and you have to be okay with that. And know that people are in your life for a season and for a reason. And you have to be keen and you have to be locked in to understand what those people are in your life for. If you understand that, then the relationships that you want to building, you'll be able to navigate your story better because they have contributed or not to your makeup as a being. And then you'll be able to okay, as you look back, hindsight, you I remember this person being in my life, having these conversations. So to me, telling my younger self is just, like LeBron says, strive for greatness and be mindful of the relationships that are around you.
Speaking of relationships that are around you,
yes.
And I think you touched upon this a little bit earlier. For you being in that media industry, in the media space and photography,
yes,
how important do you feel like it was for you to see? And did you even see other Black men operating in the same positions or having that mentorship and saying, hey, Hakim, these are the things that, you need somebody to help you there and navigate. Did you able to see any of that? Did you ever have any of those experiences at all?
No, I'm a self-taught photographer. So no official schooling or anything like that, except YouTube University. I've taken a course, a workshop, excuse me, um, in sports out in California. I flew out and it was like a 3-day workshop. And actually the information was very helpful to help me enhance my sports skills shooting wise. It was a night and day difference when I came back from the workshop from how I was looking at shooting sports and to now how I shoot sports is a night and day difference because of the tactics and stuff that I've learned, which actually I feel the first 10 years of me doing photography and learning and just being in the atmosphere, learning the trade, learning the lingo, meeting people, that all has helped me get to where I'm at now, to where the Associated Press is able to give me assignments on a regular basis. Because all my experiences that I had, those, like, what is it? You do 10,000 hours or something in your craft, and that's how I feel. My 10 years was that, going through all that learning and stuff like that. And now, even though the Associated Press have their way of shooting and have you capturing photos and stuff like that, all that was still new to me. But that learning curve was shorter for me, just for the simple fact of I've been shooting for X amount of years. So my experience as far as shooting wise, I had that already encased in. So it's just only this part I need to focus on and getting the concept and grasp of how they do things, and then put it with what I would. And then now I got a full meal I can eat from. So no, I haven't had a mentor like, hey, come work with me and let me do anything like that. No, but here to answer it another way, now I have people coming to me asking me, oh, can you help me do this? And now I feel obligated to do it, because there's a lot of Black photographers that look at me and is like, man, I wish I was doing what you were doing. And I get DMs from younger photographers that's shooting sports. How you do this, or, how you get in, why you doing? And I'm like a book. I try to flood them with as much information as possible, because I was like, man, I ain't had none of this. I ain't had nobody to talk to. I didn't have anybody. So for me, I feel like overwhelmed. I'll be wanting to give them so much, but I'll be like, Hakim, you have to slow down, because I get super excited when I see they're that eager into it. So I want to flood them with as much information so that way they can just start running, because I didn't have that. So I feel I even have some of my older peers, they still contacted, hey man, how you do this? Or I'm like, and I wound up finding myself on the phone hours talking about photography with any and everybody, especially if I know they're interested or if they're really trying to learn something. I found myself talking with them, and my wife always tells me, it's like, and tell anybody, it's like, if you want to talk photography, you're going to be sitting there for hours. You're going to be, and what's funny is, you guys probably had this experience. I'm pretty sure you have, where you're in your field and you wind up having start out a conversation about your field, and you wind up talking. And then you realize, like, man, I ain't mean to talk your head off, but it was just natural that, you love what you do. So for you to talk about it is nothing, you know what I'm saying? And for me to share the information, that's one thing I do. I like that I have my experiences to share with the younger photographers. And I always, like, I think I mentioned this to you before, when I go into these events, one of my highlights of my photography for career thus far has been when I went to the Cannes Film Festival, and I was the only Black photographer there out of 255 photographers that was on the red carpet. So for me, that was like a pinnacle, Mount Everest point in my photography career, because one, the Cannes Film Festival is the the #1 film festival in the world. You have everybody from every parts of the world coming to this festival for a 2-week festival. So, that experience for me as a Black young photographer, and going there and seeing, one, I'm in a whole nother country, don't speak French or don't speak the language. And here I am, I'm on a red carpet with thousands of, the crowd is thousands, but it was only allowed 255 media or press people on the red carpet. And I could say, I was one of those. So that is definitely a highlight that I love to share, because that's a super prestigious place to be. And I was blessed to be there, at that moment, for sure.
Wow. And one thing I want to go back to, I know that you are, besides all the photography and the things that you do, you're very active in your community, and you're very active in the lives of young men and women that are within your community.
Yes.
And if you could, those people that come to you and say, "Hey, Hakim, I'm interested in getting into media, photography, etc." What's 3 things that you would say, "Hey, if I were you, this is where I would start off in trying to get into this space"?
First, I would just say the easiest will probably be start at high school level, and just reach out to the school's athletic directors, because they're the ones that's going to say yay or nay. And if it's a high school that you have relatives at, that will also be a good connect, because then you could say, "Hey, I'm coming, I want to shoot my nephew, or I want to shoot my niece, a volleyball." So therefore, and then you could say, "Hey, well, even though I'm here to shoot my niece, but I can shoot the team and, give you guys some photos." More than likely, they're going to say yes, because high school sports and those kids won't even have any pictures. So for them to have pictures or to reach out to some of the parents, they will absolutely love it. So that's really a gold mine, so to speak, especially because some of those kids are not going to play anything after high school. So if they have any pictures of them playing any high school sports, would be great. So that would be number one. Try to get with the school's athletic directors, reach out to them. Athletic directors or school principals would be good. And then also whatever sport that you want to cover, speak with that coach, the head coach as well, because sometimes high schools, whatever, like for example, Jonesboro High School, the head basketball coach is actually also the school athletic director. So that was just talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, just come on in," so they give you pretty much free reign. You can shoot in the locker room. You can get, you'll be able to get some very unique stuff at high school level that you won't per se get at collegiate or pro level. The access gets restrict, as you go up. Another thing, once you get just say high school level, then I would say check your local newspaper that's covering any local high school sports. Just say for an example, like if you live in California, California got some really prestigious high schools or private schools. You got LeBron's son at schools. You got, so you got athletes or top 5, 4 or 5-star recruit athletes at these high schools, and they already have a media presence.
Yeah.
If you're there at the high school to cover them, then we'll just say if they go to Cal or USC or somewhere like that, now you can go to that athletic director and follow the kid. You can say, "Hey, you know what? I got pictures of him. I covered him in high school. I would like to continue. Is there any way we could, and then, again, you still have to go through their athletic directors at the collegiate level as well. And then you have to let them know what sport. So it's the same pretty much procedure. And then the third tier above that is obviously getting with media network, because then that way the network applies for your credentials to go cover said events, whether any sporting event, in any event, because obviously by me being in news and media, I'm not only just subject to sports. Is what pretty much whatever happens. Breaking news happened. Hey, you're available. We need shots. Can you go here? So once you become affiliated with a major network, that's when you can see more of the doors open for you, because you have more access because of the weight of your news media outlet carry. Because when I show up to the scene somewhere and I say, "Oh, I'm covering it. I'm here with the Associated Press," they like, "Oh, okay, here, go ahead." Versus if I'm saying, "Oh, I'm here with HKSR Media Group," they're like, "No, sir, you go." But if I say, "Hey, I'm here with the Associated Press," things are different. Oh, if it's a setting, oh, where's AP? Oh, they're over here. So it definitely is tiers, as they say, to, it's levels to it. So, but starting just to, real simple, get with the high school, practice just craft, because high school, you're able to make so many mistakes and learn and perfect your craft. So that way, when the opportunity presents itself to go to collegiate or pro, you'll be ready and your images will speak for it. And then that way that will keep you in that realm, because that's one thing for me, by me being able to get credentials to cover collegiate sports and really fine tune, because the game is much faster than high school. You have more things to look out for at a collegiate level. And then me graduating to pro level. So I've had my time. Now, mind you, all this time while I'm shooting for the magazine, all of this is pro bono, no money, $0. I tell people, my friends will always tell me, it's like, "Bro, you shooting, you still not the magazine still not paying you?" I was like, "Nah, man, it's more than that. I'm getting, the money's going to come, bro." I said, "That you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. I'm looking at all this I'm doing is a resume builder for me. So when opportunity comes, oh, what have you done? Boom. Oh, yes, we want you." I've been shooting, I've been credentialed for the NBA 4 years, the Falcons 5 years. So years as a credentialed photographer, that holds a lot of weight, versus somebody just covering 1 and 2 games. I'm years with these organizations. So all that was not being paid. Prime example, really quick. The Celebration Bowl was in its 6th year this year when Deion Sanders' team made it to, but they got beat. Mm-hmm. But they made it. This was the 6th year. Now, mind you, I've been covering the Celebration Bowl for the past 5 years for the magazine, unpaid. This was the first year I'm covering the same event, but got paid because I was covering it for the Associated Press. It took me 5 years. I ain't got no money, but that 6th year, it happened. So that, and same thing with NBA. Everything I've been covering all those years, $0. NFL, $0. The PGA Tour with Tiger Woods and all that, $0. So you put in your work. And I never thought of it as, man, I'm not getting paid. I never had that mindset. My mindset always was, it's going to come, because by me being in this circle, I'm networking. I'm using the opportunity to talk. Hey, I'm such and such. So that way they see me at all the major events. So that's for me, that's creating curiosity to them. They're like, who is this guy? He's here. Everything that we're at, he's here too. I spent a lot of money on gear upgrades, cameras, body, lenses, because I'm studied to see what the pros are carrying. What are they using? I know why you use this type of lens versus this type of lens. It gives you this type of look versus this type of look. If you want your images to look something in this realm, then these are the type of lenses you need to have in your arsenal to keep this type of imagery. If you don't, you can't compete. So it was a lot of money spent over the years to build my equipment pro level. So that way, as I'm in this arena, the guy over there, I got the same lens he has. I got the same, but it's not, like they say, it's not about the equipment. It's actually who was behind the equipment and how you shoot it, what you do with it. But that was just my thing growing to that. It's levels to it. And so now that I'm at that level, at that point, that gives me just more confidence when I go in that I'm able to capture images that are just as good as them. Because I figure like I told you before, when I go in a room, I don't care who's in there. I feel like I'm the best shooter in the building, regardless of what. So it and that's how I've always been, even with my young equipment. So it doesn't just, also to the younger people, it doesn't matter what equipment you have. Use what you have to the best of your ability. Everything else will come in time.
Wow. So we all know the power of affirmation. Give us your favorite saying or affirmation or quote that you live by.
Really, I just talk to myself, honestly. Right before I go out, I just, and I say I'm using sports a lot because that's my passion. Even though I shoot, weddings, parties, I shoot everything. But what I love to do is sports. So that's why I kind of keep, gravitating to that. But for me, sports, it's just like I go when I'm driving, I'm like, okay, Hakim, it's time to go to work. It's just like, get ready, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, and then when I hit the field or the court, my first thing I say, all right, Lord, let me know where I need to be, or keep me active in it. Because when I'm super laser focused, when I'm shooting, it's like I'm you're in a zone, you're in a moment. Or like if you're a writer, once you get past that writer's block and you start writing, it's just like, it's 4 or 5 pages done, and you just like, so for me, I get hyper focused, and I'm just in tune with what's going on around me. So me saying just like, it's go time. It's just like, it's time to hit that switch. Just like with any professional athlete or something like that, it's something that they say or do that gets them to that point to get hyper focused. For me, it's just talking to myself. It's like, okay, all right, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's go is my thing. Like, let's go, because is game time. Is we here to do a job. We got to get it. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing. That's really pretty much it, and just like, all right, Lord, I'm here where I need to be, what I need to capture, because another prime example, and it's just more this recent, again, at the Celebration Bowl, since I watched Dion and his son, right before each game, they walked the sideline together. It's the son that's the quarterback. They walk the sideline together, and then they turn around and walk back. So I was listening to someone on a podcast. Somebody asked him and said, "They like, what do you talk about when you're and your son walking?" He said, "When we're walking down, it's father and son conversation. When we turn around and walk back, it's Coach Prime." So me knowing that, I was like, okay, so here it is, game time. I'm on their sideline, and I'm already in my mind, that's a shot I got to get, because I already know that's something that they do. And God, so be it. I was standing there on their sideline, and I just so happened, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know when, obviously. But I just happened to look, and I saw them start to walk. So I ran down the sideline, and I caught them as they were coming straight to me. And I caught them talking and stuff like that. And then I caught them doing a brace. That photo he put on his Instagram post and posted it. And it went crazy. But I put my caption on my Instagram page. It was something like, dads are important, this, that, I put something like that. So for me, I knew that moment was going to happen. And so I put myself in position to make sure I got the image, and I got it. And then when I posted it, a lot of people start going crazy. And then next, I was like, man, I know in my mind, I was like, man, I know Dion got to see this. I know he got to see it. I know people tagging him. And sure enough, a friend of mine posted, it's like, he did. And I went to his page and sure enough, and then of course he put whatever he said on there. But even though he didn't give me photo credit for it, all my friends went on this page. It's like photo taken by, but it was good to know, like, okay, that moment. And it was just basically about being a Black father, showing support to your child, being there, stuff like that. So you'll be able to see it. It's on this page. It's on my Instagram page. But that's just an example of when preparation, it meets opportunity. And that was just something in anything. Know your field that you're in. Know what so me being in sports, I gotta know the key person on the team is the quarterback. If there's an electric player, electric super, like, okay, well, we used to have Julio Jones. So we already like Julio Jones. So I know that I need to make sure I got a lot of shots of Julio Jones because he's going to wind up doing something phenomenal on the field. So I want to make sure I get that shot. Or basketball with Trae Young, our point guard. I know he does a lot of antics and stuff like that. So it's good for me to watch him and, focus on him. So knowing the craft and knowing the field that you're in definitely will put you, like you say, preparation opportunity. So for sure.
And I like to hear, I love your story and your journey, because I think a lot of people would look at you right now and say, oh, he was an overnight success, right? People look at the current product, and kind of didn't see what the journey was, what the hardships were, what that behind the scenes of you going years of not getting paid. So I think it's wonderful to kind of see your journey. And just to kind of wrap up, and like I said before, I know that you're very active within your community. You do a lot of things with the kids and things like that in your community. What at the end of the day do you want your legacy to be?
That I was available. That was available to the guys and girls, whoever needed me, that I was able to provide some type of insight, some type of positive outlook to whatever situation that they had. It's funny, with people passing and stuff like that. It, always has a funny way of putting things in perspective. And it's just like, what do you want to be known for? Like, what do you want? Once you're gone, like, people may mourn you, but then they still got their life to, they still go on. So for me, my thing of is like, what I have left, what I have to leave behind is my impact as far as loving dad, provider, a great friend, and someone that, left a hope legacy of photos that, kids, photos live forever. So my kids, grandkids, they can say, oh, this is taken by my granddad, or my great granddad, So I think for me, I look at that being part of the legacy. Like, my dad or my granddad, my great granddad was a photographer, and he inspired me to take photography because, look at some of the images that he's taken. So I'm very mindful of, even when I do assignments, even like when the riots was here in Atlanta, I felt it was my obligation to be out there to photograph that. Even though that's when the pandemic was really raging, I only went out the first day, but that was I think for me, as I watched the other days, I think the first day was more impactful because I think it was more raw, pure emotions. Day one, when they set the car on fire, so all those images I have And it was like nothing I never felt before. So that was what, a couple of years, 2 years ago when that happened. So yeah, maybe going on 3 years now. But whenever it was, I mean, I have never experienced anything like that before in my life. Or when I look back at some of those images, I look at the face of this woman crying when she was looking at the police chief. I mean, and I made it in black and white. And for me, certain photos in black and white impacts the image. It's the same image, but when you have it in black and white, it just conveys so much more power. I love black and white images. I put a lot of my images in black and white, especially something like when I was there. I have them in color, but then also have them in black and white. And a lot of those things I keep for my personal archive, for my own personal. I might post a couple of, but some of the stuff that I do post, the black and white ones, I do have for my personal that I actually print and stuff like that. So I haven't taken, even with those photos, I have some in a folder. I want to sit and go back through them again. And then I want to make it like a coffee table book, just for me to have, and just, a hard copy of, of that day. I think would be nice for myself. And, so I think I will be doing, that's something I will be doing this year for sure for myself.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Wright, I do want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story and your journey in the world of media and photography. And we hope that you will continue to be an inspiration, definitely, to the people that see this and see your and hear your journey and see your story. So I definitely want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we will definitely see everyone next time. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you for having me. It was truly a pleasure. And I'm here at any capacity you ever need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. And see you guys next time.
All right. Bye-bye.